Welcome back, everybody. The Pod Bowl is in the books. We've been waiting for a year for this. We started the podcast exactly 1 year ago today. We finally got that Vikings 49ers matchup. We thought we were going to get it last year in the playoffs. Wasn't meant to be. But here we go. It happened, and I cannot believe it. But the Vikings surprisingly emerged victorious against Joey's exhausted and beleaguered 49ers. 22-17 final. The Vikings season is back on. I'm pumped. Was the main story on ESPN and Fox today talking about that win. Was texting you during the game last night. Obviously, huge one. We've been waiting so long for it. As a Niners fan, obviously, it must have been really frustrating given all the penalties and turnovers and whatnot. But overall, after a year of waiting, what was it like to finally have the Pod Bowl? And actually see our two teams go up against each other, Joey?
Yeah, it was super fun. Super fun. That's exactly what I hoped. No, that was awful. That was pathetic. I'm not surprised they lost. I mean, I think the Vikings are better than the record. Did I think they were going to lose? No, I didn't. Even with the injuries. Because Minnesota, you guys are missing your best player. I'm like, okay, somewhat fair. But yeah, from start, well, I wouldn't say start, obviously get the turnover in the first drive. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is
I was apoplectic. I was like, here we fucking go again.
Like, they got the turnover and then Purdy, like, couple throw. I'm like, okay, we're rolling. And then again, like, McCaffrey fumbles second time in 3 weeks in the red zone. Again, I don't know where the good place on the field to fumble it. Like, you fumble it on your own 10, like you set the other team up, but you fumble it on the opposing 10, and you're like, wow, that was points. So maybe the 50,
fumble it at midfield. Yeah, that's the only acceptable place to fumble it.
But again, like, and just I don't know what. Like, I saw McCaffrey played every snap. Like, is he hurt or is he not? Like, why do we have Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason? Like, it's not like he had the touchdown catch, nice, but it was set up on blocking. He didn't do anything crazy. I'm not going to say he didn't help the play on his touchdown, but is his injury contributing to the fumbles? I don't think so. But
he's questionable all week, and he plays whatever it ended up being 60-something snaps.
Yeah,
pretty wild.
Like, I think I texted you, but I'm just like this. Every time Purdy does well, it's because he's got an all-star team. But, like, when we lose, like, obviously Purdy had just a horrendous fourth quarter. But, like, stop fumbling the ball. Stop.
And coming from a Niners fan whose team is 5-2, the Vikings have 14 turnovers through 7 weeks. So, obviously, you've had it a little bit. I wasn't even a
Vikings fan, and I'm like, damn, like, y'all need to stop turning the ball over. But – like, I saw that it was the first time in like 16 or 17 games, regular season games, that the Niners had lost the turnover battle. It's like, well, no wonder you're winning a lot of games. That's kind of a big stat. It was like, yeah, they lost it 3-1. Yeah, 2 picks and a fumble, and then the 1 pick.
They showed Shanahan in the post-game press conference, and he said, we lost the turnover battle 3-1. That's why we lost the game. And then basically anytime the reporters asked him questions to elaborate, he's like, lost the turnover battle. Lost the turnover battle. And you're like, yeah.
It's just crazy because, like, if I really wanted to put, like, my absolute just Niners colored glasses on, like, if that one play at the end of the first half, which on God's green earth did we bring 7? I heard this today too, like on the radio coming home, that it was the first time any NFL team in the last like 3 years has brought 7 with under 30 seconds left in like the first or second half.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm Steve Wilkes, I'm like, well, he could have picked it very well, and like the other guy just made a play, literally identical plays. How does that, like, how weird is that?
Very bizarre.
The same two, each get 1, and it's just like, oh, well, he could have had a pick, and we might have brought it all the way back. I'm like, what would have been a better decision to just not give up 7 or 6, whatever.
Prevent defense there would have been, at worst, we would have gotten a field goal.
Because, like, you could say at that one play, the Niners won the game. But I'm like, okay, well, also the Vikings, we stopped you guys, I think, twice, first goal to go, like to force field goals. because I was like, oh, you missed Jefferson, and then I was like, did you? Like, how many more passing yards could you have had? Like, what do
Cousins
you throw for 550?
35 of 45 for 378, 2 touchdowns, 121.5 passer rating against the best defense in the NFL.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I'm so sick of that because this isn't the first game. This has looked like this. We'll get to it in the bum of the week, but like all we heard of Minnesota just can't run the ball, and it's like the first few plays, it's like, what was it, 7 yards a carry? Like
that was the most surprising thing. So if folks listen to our preview of the Pod Bowl, I said the first drive of the game for the Niners is what's going to dictate to me whether we're going to have a chance. Well, we turned the ball over on the first drive like we have in pretty much every other game this season. The Niners march right down and they're about to score. McCaffrey fumbles, and I'm thinking, okay, that's a huge break. This is the first time like all year where we got like a break very early in the game. And then as you're watching the rest of the game go forward, I realized more and more that the Vikings were going to be in it, mostly because Niners could not generate the kind of pass rush and the kind of run stopping that I expect from them, partly because it looked like Greenlaw was injured on almost every play. Warner got a massive stinger on his thigh on one of those plays.
I saw that. I was like, oh, like this could get any worse. Like we're losing and Fred is dead.
And then he comes back 2 plays later. Of course.
Like you don't really. I didn't see like a good replay on it until they got back from the commercial break. I was like, the whole commercial break, I'm like, torn quad, blew out his Achilles, like something so terrible. And then you see the replay, it's just like the worst Charlie horse of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a knockdown slugfest type game. Jordan Addison was in and out of the game with injuries. Everybody in this game was exhausted by the end. There were multiple players on both sidelines with cramps. They were talking about in the post-game press conference. I mean, to me as a Vikings fan, obviously it's incredibly encouraging. I think this is the best Cousins game for the Vikings this year, probably, I don't know, maybe since that 2018 game where I think he threw for over 500 against Chicago. So it's like, okay, this is, an epic performance. But the point that you were making yesterday and that you're making today is, yes, it's an impressive win for the Vikings, but the biggest takeaway is the Niner defense is not what everybody else was saying it was going into that Cleveland game.
Oh, I mean, like they stopped. They held Pittsburgh. The Rams, I mean, went up and down the field that game, and then they played the Giants. There were a couple drives like the Giants didn't have a problem, scoring, and Arizona moved the ball a bit, and then you get to these better teams. I mean, Cleveland had no Deshaun, which like I don't think he's the old Deshaun, whatever that was, and no Nick Chubb, and it was like just up and down the field. And Stefanski, I don't know if him and O'Connell, I mean, they probably do know each other somewhere. But they killed us with the screens, and like they just completely used the 49ers aggressiveness just to get up the field with their scheme. Mm-hmm. Like they don't make any bones about it. Like they it's just put your hand in the dirt and get after the passer. And if you don't do it right, like there are holes. Mm-hmm. And this honestly, the saddest quote, not sad, but the most damning quote I heard after the game was from Nick Bosa, who like, hello, like where the hell are you? He's like, we're like a 4 rush team, but he's like this year it seems a little different. I'm like, yeah, Steve Wilkes is his biggest difference between the previous 2 guys is he blitzes so much compared, and like we're not getting home. Mm-hmm. Like Kirk drops back 45 times and we don't get home once, and we're blitzing more. Mm-hmm. Like Kirk is really good. Like good for him. I've been like probably a bigger Kirk fan than most people. Like mm-hmm. You could do a whole hell of a lot worse than Kirk Cousins, which by the way, big picture, like, do you keep him? I mean, like
hell of a game.
Get a lot worse. Like really,
prime time Kirk.
Like, I just.
But that's the story of the game, right? 45 pass attempts, no sacks against.
Their money is allocated so heavily into that, and it's just this year has just been nowhere. Absolutely, like I said, Nick Bosa I think has 1 sack while being blocked.
Yeah.
The other two were just completely blown assignments, and he went straight into the quarterback. That's the biggest thing. The defense. I mean, Fred Warner, Drake Greenlaw, I think those guys are playing lights out, especially Fred, although I think he had not his best game yesterday. Because they threw a couple times like over the middle, and he was kind of like, which one am I?
Not a great game from.
It honestly looked like Kevin O'Connell knew what plays we were running on defense. Honestly.
I was going to say Ward and Lenore did not have a good. I mean, no Jefferson out there, and you give up 378 passing yards. That's a damning situation for the secondary.
I think that's mostly on the pass rush. Like there were some times I thought that, like, especially Ward, I thought like even like they were in the double move where he got the illegal contact, and it's like that has nothing to do with the pass rush because Kirk snapped it, took like maybe 2 steps, and just threw the the go route or the stop and go, and he was just. I mean, he's lucky that they called a flag because that was a touchdown. Yikes.
Yeah, pretty wild. We've been waiting for that game for a long time. It did not disappoint. I thought, obviously it's our two teams, but it was probably the best Monday night game of the year. The only other candidate would have been that opening week game against or where it was Buffalo and New York. But I mean, obviously that was very different and a very poorly played offensive game. This was just a slugfest. Really good one. Vikings improved to 3-4. The season is back on. They really don't play a truly challenging game until week 15 at Cincinnati, which jury's still out on them. So Vikings looking up. Niners have lost 2 in a row. Very strange to say on this podcast when the Niners have had almost no regular season.
It feels like the sky is absolutely falling. Relatively.
Yeah, I mean, other than the NFC Championship game on this podcast, it's been peachy basically every week. So strange waters ahead for the Niners. Let's start looking at next week. The Niners are hosting Cincinnati. They're 4.5-point favorites. They're facing the Bengals off the bye. Looks like Burrow's going to be fully healthy for this game. He's had enough time to rest. The Niners pass rush, as you said, they're on red alert. It's a must-win game. It's a must, pressure game for the Niner defense where they just got to get home against that weak offensive line and against Burrow. Going into this game, it feels like a must-win. It feels like this is one where Kyle's got to scheme something up where they put up 30+.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It is like they had the injuries. I mean, obviously you would have liked Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel out there, but I thought the offensive line held up enough. I thought Purdy, at least in the first 3 quarters, I thought he was our best player. Honestly, the first 3 quarters, I thought he was. I think he was like 16 of 19 after 3 quarters for like 215 and a touchdown, and I thought he got out of a couple sacks and ran, and then the fourth quarter happened, and I mean, what was that? But I have fully confidence in the offense. It's just the defense. You said it. The Bengals offensive line is not good, and you're at home now. You're going to have
they cannot run the ball with Mixon. They just can't. I mean, this is your chance.
They have to. I just, how Jake Moody had to make. I thought he had to make the first one and he missed it. But I was absolutely shocked. Kyle sent him out for the 55-yarder, and he drilled it. And I was like, okay, I think we'll not call Robbie after this one because I was like that was good. The defense needs that same thing. You need something.
Yeah.
Because maybe they didn't get any confidence beating Dallas the way they did. I mean, maybe they just think Dak is that bad. But you got to do something because we got the bye, and then they go to Jacksonville, who is rolling. It could snowball quick. It can snowball quick.
Yeah, this is a really important one for the Niners, a get-right game. You've lost 2 in a row, but those were both on the road. They're back at the friendly confines there in Levi's. Got to have that one. Vikings head to Green Bay. We're looking at a dangerous flat spot here after a really, Kirk wins a primetime game against a really good team. I mean, Vikings fans are as pumped up as they've been this season. Now you go to your main rival on the road in division. The line opened Green Bay -2.5. I bet the Vikings there +2.5. It's moved to Pick'em, and now in some places Vikings -1 off of the performance last night. You're 3-4, so you still have to have this one. As an unbiased observer, when you look at the Vikings heading into Green Bay, is this one that they have to have just because of how bad Jordan Love is playing right now?
Yeah, it's a have to have because they're a lot better than the Packers. I, I mean, yeah, as great of a win as it was last night for Minnesota, if you back it up with an L to the Packers, that's a kick in the dick. Like it, especially like, yeah, you said your biggest rival. Like, I mean, they are not playing well. Jordan Love looks lost.
It's so nice after freaking 30 plus years of Hall of Fame quarterback play for the Packers for them to finally have a guy that sucks. Oh, is it good? It's just, it's been my entire life.
You know, he had a pretty decent preseason, I thought. Well, I think most people thought, and then he got to the regular season. I thought he had a couple good moments early on, but lately, ever since the Monday night game against the Raiders, I mean, just what are we looking at? Some of this, I mean, obviously Purdy threw a couple WTFs last night, but Love is ever since it's just that was a arm punt. No, Vikings. I mean, they're better than the Packers. I don't care that it's in Lambeau. They should beat them. I'm not gonna say they win by 10, but like they should win.
Yeah, absolutely got to have it. Yeah, so the Vikings absolutely have to have that Green Bay game. The week after that, they're going, I believe, to New Orleans, which is another weak team. So, I mean, it's looking like there's a chance at the playoffs. Marcellus Wiley and a couple of the other guys on Fox today were talking about the Vikings in a weak NFC definitely being a playoff contender now. So,
well, they absolutely could.
Yeah, the narrative has shifted with how the Rams have been playing poorly. Right now, if the season ended, Atlanta would win the division and the Bucs would be the 7th seed. Like, not exactly a murderer's row for the Vikings to get by in the NFC to make the playoffs. I don't know if we catch Detroit, but that's a story for another day. Rams off of a tough loss. They're playing Dallas. Actually, let's start with Thursday Night Football. Tampa Bay at Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 9 in this game. Did anybody watch last week and the week before? They were awful against the Giants. They were awful against the Patriots. Why are they favored by 9 in this game, Joey? It makes no sense.
I don't know, but well, Buffalo is one of those teams that I guess people just have faith in no matter what. Like they just don't believe what they're seeing because what I'm seeing is a very average football team. I was pretty down on Buffalo coming into the season, and that Miami game kind of made me a little nervous with my, prognostication. But the last 2 weeks, boy, I feel – or 3. Is this 3 straight losses? Yeah, because it was the – Miami was before the London game. Yeah, and then they came home with the Giants, and then, I mean, they let Mac Jones go 25 of 30, I believe, game-winning touchdown. Like, are you kidding me? I know you guys got injuries. You guys are missing – or you guys. Buffalo's missing Matt Milano for the season, and then Tre'Davious White's out. But come on. Like, Sean
25 of 30
again,
for 272 for Mac Jones, who was very close to losing his job. Like, very bad heading into
mean, again, Sean McDermott, another one of those defensive guys. I don't want to say he's like a culture guy, but defensive guy clearly. A lot like Ron Rivera, defensive guy. But, like, what do you do? Like, your defense isn't – I mean, well, Sean McDermott's had better defense. I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt with some of the injuries. But still, like –
they have enough talent there. Yeah,
he's like Josh Allen has regressed. I know sometimes he looks, really good. Every time he throws to Diggs and it's not complete, I feel like Diggs is going to lose it.
Bottom line, though, you cannot give up 29 to Mac Jones in a division.
No,
I mean, man.
No, like
Say what you want about their hideous performance on Sunday Night Football against the Giants. They only gave up 9 points. Like, it wasn't a terrible showing. 29 to Mac Jones, who couldn't score against the Raiders the week prior. I mean, not looking good there in Buffalo. So if I was to bet on this game, I would bet Tampa Bay plus 9. I couldn't believe that line is that high. Obviously,
Buffalo,
not a very good
their schedule. They gotta pull it together to make the playoffs.
Yeah, at 4-3, it's no longer a guarantee. And I mean, look who's coming. It's Zach Wilson and the Jets. They're coming on 1-2 in a row. They're 3-3, only a half game back. Oh, baby.
I bet that would be. Hey, Robert Saleh might get coach of the year if he makes the playoffs.
Oh, if he can get to 10 wins with that team, absolutely. Tip of the cap to him. Let's start with the Sunday slate. Rams are at Dallas. Dallas is favored by 6.5. Feels a little bit strong, but Dallas is off the bye and at home. The Rams are coming off a really tough home loss to Pittsburgh. That's probably the game of the morning slate. If anything, I probably lean Rams there plus 6.5. But I mean, it appears to be a Rams offense that's wholly reliant on Kupp, Nakua, and Stafford, and then the defense is just Aaron Donald. Like, it is a team with a few stars who are really carrying the team right now. And then Dallas, I mean, that defense really should have its way with the Ram offensive line. So this is a tough one to pick, but I mean, as a Niner fan, you'll be rooting for Dallas here, I would imagine.
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a tough one to think, right?
Like
you have
probably,
to assume that you root against the division.
Like, it's one of those things like, oh yeah, screw the Rams, right? But like, if the Niners really feel like they have to have the Rams lose to finish ahead of them, like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, maybe you do root for.
You know, it's like what am I like? Am I also going to be like, let's go Ravens? Like, got to beat those Cardinals? Like, I mean, I honestly, I probably root for. Honestly, no, yeah, I'd root for the Rams because, again, if we're in a conversation with the Rams at the end of the season, then some shit went
major
bad.
problems. Yeah, that's
but
true.
I mean, here's the thing: now losing 2 straight games, if somehow we don't win the division, which at this point is very much possible,
the Seahawks only a half game back.
It'll be like the Niners and like a team like Dallas fighting for the 5 seed, I guess, because you know, I would assume Philly does win that division, although their schedule gets tougher.
Philly's
so play Dallas twice.
Brutal. So hey, maybe Dallas wins the division, and you know you got to make sure you finish ahead of them for home field. So yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think Dallas wins. I think the Rams are kind of like that underdog fighter who like tried to get a knockout in the first couple rounds and is just out of gas.
Yeah, like, I mean, before the season, you said the Rams were.
I thought they were one of the worst teams ever, and then they you know what, they really impressed me, and then
they're under 500 though, so they're not exactly, you know, a team that's exceeded expectations too massively. When you look at the record, they lost at home to the Steelers. So Steelers.
I thought they'd finish like 3-14 before the season. So
well, they've already got 3
yeah.
in the bank. Looking at the early slate, Atlanta -3 at Tennessee. This looks like Willis versus Ritter. Barf. Like, what an awful quarterback matchup. If you saw anything from Malik Willis last year in that game on Sunday Night Football against Kansas City, that guy is not ready for prime time. And Ritter, oh my God, I cannot believe they won that game at Tampa Bay. If you watched any of that game, 3 turnovers for Ritter in the red zone, including 2 fumbles at the 1-yard line. Like, he is the worst player in the NFL right now. Like, if you just watch the games, like, yes, the stats for certain players can be worse, like Zach Wilson and Fields when he has a bad day, and you know, some offensive lineman like McGlinchey can have just the worst game of his life. Watch the games and tell me Ritter is not the worst player in the NFL right now. I mean, that they probably could have won that game by 25 plus points. He turned the ball over at the 1-yard line 3 times. Like, Ritter is a tire fire. I'm really leaning Tennessee in this matchup, especially getting 3 points at home, even though they have, you know, muddled quarterback situation. Crazy that Atlanta would be favored by 3 over anybody.
This is a horrible game. Bad. Ritter's awful, and Malik Willis might be worse.
You think Levis should get a look? I mean, with Tannehill hurt, this is probably the time. I don't know why.
No, because I really don't. I'm really not a believer in, like, let's give a guy a look for no reason. Not in football. There's too many guys. There's too many guys with, you know, it's such a tough, violent sport. Like, we don't want, like, it just sends a bad message. I don't think Vrabel's that type of guy either. You know, other sports, yeah, who gives a shit? Like, let's see what this guy's got. Like, but football, there's only 17 games. Like, practice sucks. You train all off. I think it sends a terrible message to do that. Now, if Willis goes out there and just stinks it up, sure. But to go have him start the game,
Vrabel said both of them will play in this game. I think that's more of a decoy than anything. It does appear that it'll be Willis, but that's one reason to look at that matchup. You may get to see the debut of Levis. Another early game, New Orleans at Indy. Indy's favored by 1.5 off of that crazy game against Cleveland last week that they lost 39-38. Main note for me in this one is after watching Thursday night last week, Derek Carr is at the stage of his career that Tom Brady was at last year. And he's like 12 or 13 years younger than Brady was. He is horrified of getting hit back there. Like, does anybody get the ball out quicker? Not even efficiently. Sometimes he just dumps it to Kamara within a half second. You want to talk about a guy who doesn't want contact. I mean, Derek Carr washed watch is officially on.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. I know ever since his injury, it sure feels like he's one of the guys I always thought was better than what people thought. But I've watched him quite a bit. I thought he was kind of getting dragged down by just the Raiders' whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he was going to come to the Saints. I mean, you did too. You picked them to win the division. I didn't. I'm not going to mention who I picked, but yeah, I watched the Thursday night game, and it's just like the first half, especially, just looked awful. Like they have pieces on offense. I think they have a really good defense. Like they should be better than they are. And
there's no reason they shouldn't win that division easily. Not like, oh, we'll get there at 9-8. They should win that division easily with the roster they have.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely no doubt. He just doesn't want to get hit. They should not be underdogs to the Colts. I mean, I know the Colts have looked better than people think, but
yeah, Steichen's been good. Minshew's actually held his own. I get it, but if you're giving points to the Colts on the road, something has gone tremendously wrong. So that NFC South is just a tire fire, total mess right now. Here's a weird line: New England at Miami. So the look-ahead line, which they post before the Sunday games, the week prior, was Miami -13. It's dropped to Miami -8.5 after that Sunday night showing and after the Patriots upset win against Buffalo. Give me Miami every dollar I got on Miami -8.5 there. They love beating bad teams. This is a great spot for Miami to get right. Why is this only 8.5? I'm worried that there's some sort of, reason that maybe Belichick has turned a corner here, but it looks so obvious.
Yeah, I agree with you. Before this week, I would have said Miami -14.5, but I just think Miami has slowed down a bit. They played in New England earlier on that Sunday night game, and
Waddle may be injured. That's one.
Yeah, I just think maybe there's something there with how to play them. Granted, Philly's a lot more talented than New England is, but I don't think it's as big a blowout as I would have said. But yeah, still, I would think Miami covers.
Yeah,
they're just way more talented than
they're going to put up a lot of points. No matter how well the Patriots defense plays, they're going to put up a lot of points. And I trust Fangio to get it right and not give up a big point total to Mac Jones there. Let's look at the Battle of New York. The Giants are hosting the Jets, nominally hosting. It'll probably be a 50-50 split on fans there. Jets are off the bye. Giants off what I would call a fluke win against Washington. A lot of things had to break their way for them to win that game 14-7. We liked it because we bet the Giants +2 on this podcast, but I like the Jets here off the bye. I think this is a team that's energized. I think they've looked at Miami and Buffalo struggling the past couple weeks, and they've said, hey, this thing's there for the take, and they're rallying around Zach Wilson, which is so bizarre to see. But I like the Jets in this game. Who do you like?
Yeah, I think the Jets beat them. I think they're better. Zach Wilson is hasn't crashed the ship yet, and their defense is so good. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to move the ball at all.
Sneaky good game coming up here. Jacksonville -2.5 at Pittsburgh. Jags on extra rest after playing on Thursday. Steelers are a sneaky 4-2. I think that line's a little high for Jacksonville to be favored by almost a field goal on the road. and a terrible place to play for opposing teams in Pittsburgh. I kind of like Pittsburgh there. I've been thinking about putting that as one of my picks of the week, but you have been a little bit more high on Jacksonville than I have from the outset of the season. I had them going 8-9, and I think you had them going 10-7.
Yeah, they're playing well. Playing well right now. Really starting to get, the offensive pieces all kind of squared away with their roles. And yeah, the only thing, Pittsburgh, especially at home, TJ Watt looks like an absolute force.
He's been so good. Other than Garrett, probably the best this year.
I mean, I haven't watched as much Myles Garrett. I mean, he's having an off the chart. He had a monster game Sunday, especially the field goal block too. But I mean, TJ Watt had a pick. I mean, he's just everywhere. Like every game I watch, I feel like Steelers have been in prime time a bit more. I mean, the game he had against Garrett in Cleveland on that Monday nighter, I think he had like 3 sacks. He's all over the place. My initial reaction was like, yeah, of course Jacksonville's going to win. Pittsburgh, can't move the ball.
Offense is struggling,
Yeah, but I mean, are the Jaguars going to be able to move the ball? I mean, I would think they have, I think, a really good offense, but
ETN's been really good. He doesn't come to mind when you think top running backs in the NFL, but he has been this year.
Yeah, no, they're really good on offense, so it'll be a good matchup there. I think the Jacksonville defense is a bit better than Pittsburgh's offense.
Without a doubt. They want to fire Matt Canada so bad, but they keep winning, and the fans are like, yeah, get this guy out of here.
I love that video of the touchdown Pickett threw, and then he was like not happy.
Because he checked the play. Yeah. He's like, I know we just won the game, but that wasn't the play I called. I'm like, what a dick. Philly.
It's like I don't know how people like be like, you're gonna get fired for that. Like it's just
it's like just pretend that you care about winning and not your own pride. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Philly -5.5 at Washington. I heard someone the other day, because of their logo, call them the Washington taco holders. Was like, that's actually not bad. I want to steal that. But the logo
holders,
like it's like a W, like that thing that holds the tacos at the restaurant. I was like, that's pretty good. I feel like I got to steal that one for the pod. Washington, catching 5.5 points. I love Philly in this spot, even though they're coming off a Sunday night win that was ecstatic, and the Philly sports scene is at its all-time high. Looks like the Phillies are going to make the World Series. I really think that this is like a spot where they just hammer them, and maybe put Rivera out of a job. Couldn't believe this was only 5.5. I think that it's that way because of the game in Philly a few weeks ago where Washington almost won in overtime, but I think they lay the beat down here.
Yeah, I think the game this week for Washington kind of took their soul, losing to the Giants and Tyrod Taylor.
Good bounce back from Tyrod off the Jack in the Bum of the week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, huge win for him, and the Giants are going nowhere. It's not that big of a win, but for him, yeah, sure. Washington, I mean, you just like they don't pass the stink test, right? I mean, that locker room is probably just absolutely miserable.
Sam Howell has been sacked 41 times. He's on pace to break David Carr's record of most sacks in a season. He is getting obliterated back there.
Yeah, and Mr. Jonathan Allen in his post-gamer, like that seems like vibes are high for Washington. No, they're going to get rolled.
Yeah, this has been a tire fire since before the season. We made that probably our most, our favorite bet of the offseason, Washington under 7.5 wins, and I think that's going to get there. Players are turning on Rivera. Players are turning on Bieniemy, and that team has looked like dog crap the past 3 weeks. So tough one there for Washington. We like Philly a lot at -5.5 there. Our guy, DeMeco Ryans, -3 with his Houston Texans at Carolina. Texans are rested, healthy, motivated. A playoff spot is there for the taking. Cakewalk schedule. I like Houston here. I think a lot of people are going to like Houston. Seems like it could be a little bit of a trap with Carolina also coming off the bye, but I don't see any reason why anyone wouldn't take Houston in this spot.
Yeah. No chance.
Yeah, number 2 overall pick, CJ Stroud against number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young. And, oh, my God, does Bryce Young have to have this game? Holy moly. Frank Reich has ceded the play-calling duties to his offensive coordinator in a bid to try to inject something.
What does that even do? Like, you're the offensive guy. You're the boss. I'm going to give this guy, like – Doesn't that look so bad?
6 games in, he's like, I give up. Not good. Not good, Bob.
Yeah, not good, Bob.
Cleveland at Seattle in the late window. That's a good one. Cleveland's defense, at least until last week, was on a historic pace. Going to Seattle, who, I mean, they need DK badly. As we saw last week, they only put up 20 against Arizona without Metcalf. I think they got to get him back and healthy and put up some points here against the Cleveland defense that, yes, they're incredibly good, and Myles Garrett is a beast, but they showed a little crack last week and given up 38 points to Indy on the road. So this will be a good one. I lean Seattle here minus the points.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah,
Watson appears to be out. They just said 4 to 6 week injury. Just came across that his rotator.
No, okay, yeah. That reminds me, because I had a thought, and that reminded me of it. If the Vikings did want to trade Kirk, do you think they could send him to Cleveland?
I think had we lost last night,
if they put Deshaun on IR, long-term IR, basically, so they remove his
out
cap
for the year. Yeah,
he goes back with Kevin Stefanski with that team and that defense. I was like,
had we lost last night, that probably would have been something I would have been.
But here's the thing. No, see, because I do think you beat the Green Bay, you're right in it. So.
And I mean, if we lose this weekend, we're still 3-5. It's I don't think there's a scenario where we trade anybody of value at the deadline, regardless of what happens on Sunday. But there was a piece that came out this week about, where Cousins could go next week in ESPN. And man, Cleveland was the one they were beating the drum on. And I was like, really? How did they pull that off? With Watson's cap on there.
I didn't even read that end.
Well, they were talking about how Shanahan would want him until he found Purdy. Even if they still were giving Lance a shot, this probably would have been Kirk to the Niners in 2024 or even last year. But now that they have Purdy and his super low cap number, it's moot. But yeah, they were saying obviously the teams we discussed, the Jets, Atlanta, whoever. Yeah, we like Seattle in that one -2.5. But yeah, your point on Watson was get that guy out of there. I mean, PJ Walker apparently has the locker room more than he does. Nobody gave a shit.
When your coach has to confirm that he still is the leader of the football team, that means he's not the leader of the football team. I saw the quote just said Stefanski, yeah, Watson's still leader of this team. But it came out he's 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, they were saying that the rotator cuff injury he has for baseball players, it's much more common, and that's a 4 to 6 week injury. So they're saying they expect him to at least be out this week, if not getting placed on IR and missing a minimum of 4 games. So that's why I like Seattle a lot there. I would not be surprised if that moved from 2.5 up to 4 or more. Kansas City at Denver, they're favored by 8. The Chiefs offense, I think, has turned a corner with that performance against the Chargers on Sunday. They looked fantastic. That looked like the Chiefs of old. And finally, mercifully, Taylor Swift is back on tour. She's going to be in South America for 3 months. So no more of that during our football games, at least starting this week until the Super Bowl. So thank goodness, no more panning over to the Mahomes Kelsey luxury box every single time they hook up for a pass.
I'm so sick of that. I don't even know why. I don't know why it's so annoying. I don't. But as for the football game, yeah, this not going to be close.
Yeah,
it's
Denver got their win.
They lost to to Detroit week 1 without a couple guys, and it was different Chiefs team. It's no, week 7 or 8, they're 6-1, and it's
who has the best record in the NFL?
It's where's those games in January going to be played, and who's? It's just wow.
The AFC KC Invitational continues.
Yeah,
there's no
the KFC Invitational.
The KFC 10-piece drumstick and thigh. Yeah. Baltimore -8.5 at Arizona. So my note on this game is this is the ultimate flat spot for Baltimore. They just thrashed Detroit. Everyone is singing Lamar's praises. I think everyone assumes this is a 10-plus point victory for Baltimore. Normally, I would hammer Baltimore here because I like betting against bad teams at any price point, but this looks like a flat spot, especially in the first half. Arizona is like right in it in every game at the half, and then they fall apart after that. We saw it against Seattle. We saw it against the Cowboys where they won. We saw it against the Giants, and then we saw it against the 49ers even. So at least in the first half, I think this will be a close game, but this worries me. This is a flat spot for Baltimore traveling across the country.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be, but could be. Yeah.
Lamar is an MVP
win.
candidate right now, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue he's number one.
Last week, he was the best player of anyone. He had the best week of any player in the NFL. They won, 38-6. We had Baltimore as one of our picks for the over in that game, and it was 38-3. And I was like, are we really going to lose on this? But the Lions kicked a garbage time field goal to get us the over on that. So we thank you on that, Dan Campbell. Sunday Night Football. This has to be the worst Sunday Night Football game in recent memory. I can't think of one worse. I remember there was one back in like the year where Peyton Manning was hurt for the Colts, where it was Colts at Saints on Sunday Night Football with Curtis Painter at quarterback for the Colts. And I think it was 62-0 New Orleans won. Like that comes to mind. We have Chicago at the Chargers on Sunday Night Football with Tyson Bagent starting for Chicago. Chargers favored by more than a touchdown is a very bizarre sight to see. It seems a little risky, but God, what an awful Sunday night game.
It's terrible. I can't.
Why was this not flexed?
Yeah. Problem is, honestly, what would you flex it for?
I mean, I'm looking at the schedule: Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. Obviously Rams, Dallas, but I would imagine Fox would protect that one. Even Vikings, Packers would be better. Cleveland, Seattle, a lot of choices that would be better, but they're not primetime matchups.
Yeah, boy, it's just an interesting game because this is a game obviously the Chargers have to win, but it's one of those, oh man, if they don't, utter chaos.
Staley will be fired if they lose this game. They're 2-4. Their season's on the line here.
I mean, Chicago, playing well. I mean, they have as many wins as the Chargers?
I saw this TikTok today of the Chicago fans have already embraced Bagent. Like Justin Fields is he's in the past now. It's hilarious. I saw this guy with a thick Chicago accent singing this. He's like, secret Bagent man. Like, that's our guy. I was like, oh my God, Fields is going to get traded. Like, they love this guy.
It's honestly one of the best things about football because, like, you don't get this. You surely don't get it like in the NBA. Really not in baseball or hockey where, like, there's such a high pick. And, like, you're just always like, oh, like it's, how much leeway that player gets. And then, but like football, even if you're a high pick and you suck and there's like this undrafted Division II guy slicing into like we will, like, we're behind you, like 100%. Like you just act like.
Absolutely.
I mean, damn right, Justin Fields should be worried. Like this guy just comes in there and ran the offense.
When's the last time the Bears won a game by 18 points easily? I mean, the fans must have just been like, oh.
That was, I mean, honestly, Sunday was a day for Sunday ticket for me because the only games I got were Raiders, Bears, and Buffalo Patriots, 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. And then we got the Chargers, Chiefs, and then the Sunday night. But, like, so I was watching the Raider game in Chicago. I'm just like, Chicago's up and down. I know the Raiders suck. And I was watching this guy just running the offense. And he wasn't even throwing the ball like down the field too much. It was just like, here's a screen, and here's a little like just quick slant. Here's just boom, 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 and all of a sudden, touchdown.
Shows you how quick it changes in the NFL. It's like Fields is already crazy. Last week's news.
Well, it's like too. It's like, can Matt Eberflus coach? I mean, I don't. His team sucks. Like on paper, the team sucks. Mm-hmm. So like. If he only wins 4 games, like, does that mean he's a horrible coach? Like, what does like Andy Reid win with this team? Like,
all hell will break loose if they win this game at Chicago. Or, I mean, at the Chargers. But I mean, obviously, as we say every single week when the Chargers play at home, it will be all fans of the other team there. But even so, Chargers have to win this one, and they probably have to win it going away, or the calls for Staley to get fired are just going to continue to get louder and louder.
Staley, I mean, it's starting to turn on Justin Herbert.
Yeah, the tide has turned against everyone there. Eckler too. They're like, why is he? I mean, he's been awful this year in the games he's played in. I think last week he had like 30 something yards. They're like, what's going on there? Sunday night football again, or Monday night football, a terrible game. The Raiders coming off of getting spanked by Chicago. They go to Detroit. It looks like Jimmy's going to return. Detroit's favored by 8.5. The Lions have to curb stomp them. This has to be like a 24+ point victory, or Lions fans are going to start to panic after that bed shitting last week in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders are terrible. I mean, Detroit should win by at least 2 touchdowns at home to this Raiders team. I mean, the Bears put 30 on them. Like, come on. At home, Detroit, come over there pissed from getting railed by the Ravens. Like, this could be like, I think it could be like 42-7.
You would hope. I mean, your pick of Detroit as your number 3 power rated team last week didn't look so great, but they got to get back on track. If they win by, 20+ points here, I think that'll calm everybody down, because they'll be 6-2 basically at the halfway point, and every Lions fan in America would take that one. Let's head over to your Jack and the Bum of the week. We got a lot of candidates, but one obvious winner. We'll start with the Lions, the aforementioned Lions, losing 38-6. I believe it was 35-0 at the half. One of the worst performances by a contending team in recent memory. It's not even one of those games where it's like, God, everything went wrong. They just got spanked. Deshaun Watson was running on him. Gus Edwards was running on him. Lamar Jackson he's throwing everywhere. I think he had not his career high in passing yards, but it was a top 5 for him. 357 passing yards plus a rushing touchdown as well. He carved him up. Lions were, I believe, +3 in that game. They lost by 32. So you get nominated for the Jack and the Bum of the week when you miss your Vegas expectation by 32 points. The Bills, of course, who we mentioned earlier, losing at New England, giving up 29 points to Mac Jones and the horrendous Bill Belichick Patriots. The Raiders, I mean, we just said it. There's no reason that they should be this bad. I get that Jimmy's hurt, okay, but you have some stars on that team. How are they this bad? They're 3-4. They probably should be 1-6. And then Jordan Love was awful again, and then Ritter, who's going to be my constant nominee for Jack and the Bum of the week. 3 more red zone turnovers last week, and Arthur Smith just losing his shit on the sideline every time one of those plays happens. It's not like a supportive, hey, we can do this, Desmond. It's a get your fucking ass over here. What the hell are you doing kind of look. So Ritter will always be a Jack and the Bum of the week nominee, but you're going with your hometown boys.
This week had some good candidates in just to comment on the nominees here. Jordan Love, Desmond Ritter, like, this might be the worst thing. It like, you're not even good enough to be the bum of the week. Like, yeah, that's to matter. Like, we don't hand out Jack and the Bums to bums because no one cares. And that's why you're not going to be the Jack and the Bum of the week, because you're a certified bum. And like, bums of the week are reserved for high expectations, low performance. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, which kind of negates why I would have chosen the Raiders if it wasn't for my actual pick, because the Raiders were, that they could have fired multiple people. Mm-hmm. Could have been Devontae Adams. You're going to say whatever the hell you said, like post game last week. How selfish ass comment, like, we won, but like, I want the ball. I want the ball more. Like, it's about me being great. Well, I saw you dropped a pretty easy touchdown against the Bears. Oh, so could have been you, but it would have been the whole team. Josh McDaniels, like, never should have been hired. They should have kept Rich Bisaccia, who hand wrote letters to everybody. Like a total sweetheart that he is. Could have been the Bills. You're awful. Lions, I would have said no, because kind of like Jalen Hurts last week, like, they're good enough to the point, like, you have to be probably a bum twice in a row. Like, Jalen Hurts looked really good not last night, but Sunday night, just one bad game. Not like, so the Lions, you get one bad game against Lamar, who's could be your MVP right now, especially if you're an NFC team. I think Lamar's record against teams in the NFC is astronomical, because they just don't see him or like scout him nearly as, Right. But yeah, my Jack and the Bum of the week is the 49ers defensive line, who arguably is the most overpaid and underperforming anything in the NFL this year. Like I said earlier, Nick Bosa, who held out, got $34 million a year, has 1 sack this year, I think, while being blocked by a human being. Can't tell if Armstead's playing. Javon Hargrave has been solid. Like he's getting to the quarterback a bit. But none of those guys stopped the run. I mean, Randy Gregory has come to our team, and he's been the best defensive lineman the last couple of weeks. Kirk Cousins, who doesn't move, drops back 45 times, and we don't touch him. And our D-line's got to be making $80 million. That's a problem. That's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And big picture, it's got to get fixed like this week. I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm not like the most nerdy X's and O's guy. You know, I watch some of it, especially defense, but like are they not running hard enough? Like, I mean, they've been dominant. Like, I don't.
It's not like they lost
hurt,
an
like
All-Pro or something. Like they lost a Menahu.
Like for Bosa, right? And for like most players, like I mean 99% of people. Like people are saying like, oh, he got paid, and like no, these guys they're not wired like that to get paid and then start dogging it. Maybe like 1 or 2 guys in the entire league, in the NFL. The other leagues, the NBA, hell yeah, they all do it. But the NFL, I just don't believe that. And it's not like he's getting double or triple teamed like more often. Like he was last year. He was, I mean, he's been dominant. And I thought, I mean, this D-line is arguably more talented than the Super Bowl one 4 years ago. I mean, Bosa, Armstead, and then Gregory's just as good as D Ford. And then, you know, Buckner's being replaced by Hargrave. I think Buckner's a better all-around player probably. Right. Hargrave's probably a better pass rusher. But, yeah, I mean, Steve Wilkes is blitzing more, and we're still not getting the quarterback against, you know, decent offensive lines, average, below average, you know, throughout the entire season.
I told you yesterday, Darrisaw and O'Neal were both great. Our tackles were great. Darrisaw had an unbelievable game shutting down Bosa, but our interior offensive line is awful. I mean, it is bottom of the barrel. And I mean, there was a couple times that the A-gap got some pressure and there were some tackles for loss, but for the most part, that interior pass rush of the Niners just did not get home in a game where they had to have it.
It's just one of those games like that's one where you gotta invest so much into one area. You have to you don't need to play like a game where you get 7-8 sacks or something, you know, but like a critical third down, like in the fourth quarter, can you strip sack, even just a sack? I mean, what did the Vikings punt one time?
Yeah, once for the whole
and they
game.
And I was arguing that they shouldn't have. It was like that second to last drive.
I would have gone for it. It was like 4th and 4.
I was like, if I was me, I'd go for it. We can't stop nothing right now. Or I would have kicked it.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been a damn hard kick, but the guy had already made 150-yarder, and I'd risk trying to get the 3 points than to give up what did that end up being, like 20, 15 yards net? Maybe after the punt touchback.
Yeah, 22-yard punt. I was so mad at the time. I was like, you either go for it or you.
Because they even said on the broadcast, like, oh, Kevin O'Connell might want to rethink that one after the game. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think they had 3 options: kick, field goal, punt, or go for it. And I thought they chose clearly the worst one.
Yes.
But didn't matter because we didn't stop them after that. Well, I guess we did. Missed kick. Doesn't count.
Yeah, when Joseph missed that kick at the end of the game, I thought it was over. I thought Purdy was going to march him down and win the game. I was like, here we go. Thank God for that pick by Bynum. So
but nothing. I mean, just like one time. I mean, just one time. Like we're paying you guys a lot of money.
It's always been the strength of the Niners, really going back to the hard.
Kyle said it post game. Someone asked him, like, you getting enough from your pass rush? He said, no.
Not even close.
I was like, thank you.
So there's Joey's Jack in the Bum of the Week. The 49ers defensive line, no sacks last week against the Vikings. Let's go over to my You Like That picks of the week. We went 3-2 last week. We're 20-13-2 in 2023. Last week, we got there with the over in the Detroit-Baltimore game, over 42. The Buffalo-New England under 42.5. What a wild game. I don't know how we didn't get that one, but New England pulls the upset. We got there with the Giants and the Vikings, and then we lost with Green Bay just barely. This week, I'm looking at some teams at home that are modest underdogs, looking at some big favorites as well. I like Tennessee +3 against Atlanta. I think Arthur Smith isn't a very good coach. I think Desmond Ridder is an awful quarterback, and a team like that cannot be favored by 3 on the road against anybody. So I really like Tennessee there. Philly -5.5 at Washington. I thought this line should have been like 9.5. I was very surprised when it opened at 5.5. I think they're putting too much stock in that game that happened recently between these two teams. Washington is in the dumps right now. They're not protecting the quarterback, and they're facing a Philly team that's just monstrous on both lines. Really like Philly there. Miami -8.5 at home against New England. Again, another one I thought would be closer to 13. I was surprised that it was at 8.5. This is one where I'm taking a risk here. Seattle -2.5 against a very, very good Browns defense led by Jim Schwartz. But I think with DK Metcalf coming back for this game, I like them to put up some points. And I don't think PJ Walker is going to be able to keep up with the Seahawk offense with those 3 very good wide receivers. And then we're going to go the Niners -4.5. I know you're scared to see that one on there, but I think this is a good spot for them. Yes, Cincinnati's coming off the bye, but I think everyone in that locker room is looking at that D-line and saying, you guys have to perform this week. You're playing against a team that cannot run the ball and has a very suspect offensive line. I think they get to Burrow. I think they win this one going away. There's your 5. You like that picks of the week for week 8 in the NFL. We're 20-13-2 so far in 2023. We're going with Tennessee +3, Philadelphia -5.5, Miami -8.5, Seattle -2.5, and the Niners -4.5 against the Bengals. Joey, it's time for your Feels Great Baby, your wildest take you feel best about currently, and you're looking ahead to the upcoming deadline.
Yeah, I feel pretty great about the NHL trade deadline. NFL trade deadline being pretty wild. I think people are going to get moved. I think the fact that there's 6 or 7 quarterbacks potentially could go in the top, on the first round next year. I think people are going to start, setting themselves up for potentially getting one of those guys. And I think there's, like I saw a report today, Tennessee is going to shop Hopkins and Derrick Henry, and usually the NFL trade deadline is like one of probably the least active out of all the trade deadlines. I think that might change a little bit this year. At least I hope so, because trades are kind of exciting.
Saw a lot of good candidates.
Yesterday, or a couple days ago, that Philly got the all-pro safety from Tennessee.
Yeah, Byard.
Yeah. He's like all-pro, right? It's like, what do you get? We got kind of like average player and a 5th and a 6th.
For an all-pro. It shows you how much safeties matter.
Yeah, all-pro. Wild. But yeah, I think it's going to be crazy. Look for the Niners. Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we might need some pass rushers, even though we just traded for one and already have like a bunch. But yeah, I think that'd be – I think things could be brewing.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple good trade candidates there in Henry and D-Hop. I would add one, Saquon Barkley. I think him on the franchise tag on a team that's going nowhere that probably needs the reset button. I think he would be an interesting trade candidate. I was looking for the Vikes. I would like to get a guy like Saquon or Derrick Henry, but I just don't think that's a good fit with the way we play. I look at James Conner as someone I'd like to get because our running game is just – it's not dynamic at all. We got 4 guys in that backfield, and none of them are thumpers. None of them are, really all that talented, period. And I think Connor would be a good fit in there. I mean, Madison,
just not good. All of it.
Madison, Akers, Chandler, Wongwu, they're all okay. They're all, I would say, C- running backs. Like, let's go get a B+. Let's go get a guy who can, actually like thump and get us 3 yards when we absolutely have to have it, because right now we don't have that on the team. And then, as you said, the Niners probably look in the pass rush direction. Probably not going to be any significant quarterback moves. It looks like the Jets are going to stick with Wilson, so I don't think we can expect any trades of that variety. But a lot of those running backs and wide receivers and defensive ends are probably going to switch teams here. I think the biggest name that I have seen floated as a possible trade candidate would be Patrick Surtain from the Broncos. Obviously, every team would love to have him. If I'm the Vikings, I would trade anything that the Broncos want to get him, but I don't think they'll trade him. At least they shouldn't if they have any intention on winning next year. So it'd be really interesting to see.
Might go to the biggest one if he is moved would be Devontae Adams.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I just don't think there's any way that teams can move that kind of money in season unless they have a ton of space. Like, yeah, a team like Chicago, who's like 60 million under the cap, could take him, but yeah, probably not too many teams that could take on his huge salary. Would love to see him go to a contender. I think he's a good guy.
I'm pretty sure the Niners got 42 million in cap space, which I don't understand how that's possible with these guys.
Classic Eddie DeBartolo, Jed York math. Probably
I was like, restructure, like boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, oh, we're 42 under the cap. Which I guess all that means is like we just pushed everything to next year. Like, I don't know.
The bill is going to come.
It's not like hockey where it's like you can't do all that stuff, but like football is like you rip up the contract and just redo another one. And
well, there's that method that the Saints' Mickey Loomis did, where I think the entire Drew Brees era he kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and then I think that it was the 2021 Saints where something like 60% of their cap was dead money, and that's when Sean Payton said, "I retire." Like that was the year where it all came due. So in the NFL, you can do some creative math, but yeah, the Niners are getting there. Probably 2-3 years down the road when Purdy needs to get paid. So that's Joey's feels great, baby. The trade deadline is going to be wild in the NFL this year. Time to close the pod. Let's talk about something that happened this week outside of the NFL. I saw this story, and this was something that I had to talk to you about. The NLCS this year pitted two teams that, I mean, nobody expected to be there. Philly, the 4 seed, and Arizona, the 6 seed. All that being said, it's the NLCS. The winner of this goes to the World Series. This is supposed to be massive. Game 3, granted 2 p.m. start time on a weekday. I get it. $9 tickets were available for the ALCS in Arizona. Like, that made me think, is it time to contract some teams? Like, I know there's no way this will ever happen, but like, if the quality of your product is so bad that the biggest games, second biggest games you can have as a fan in baseball is a home championship series game, and those tickets are selling for $9 on the secondary market, $50, $60 under the listed ticket price because nobody wants to go, that is a gigantic problem for your league.
I don't think contracting teams does anything to help that, though. Because I think there are good teams. Like there are, like if you can, what do you mean? Like you mean like
my point is like, okay, Tampa Bay, Miami, these markets that not necessarily just in baseball. We'll talk, the Florida Panthers, in hockey. There's just teams that even if they become incredible, nobody wants to go. Like the Arizona Diamondbacks. They haven't been good since 2001 when they won the World Series with Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling and Luis Gonzalez. Like, they have not been relevant for 20-something years. They finally get a guy in Corbin Carroll who is now one of the 10 best players in baseball, and it's like electrifying. You're like, oh my God, we made the NLCS. And even then, nobody wants to go. Like $9 tickets available.
I think the problem is bigger than that. So I don't think it's like Arizona and Miami. I think most of the teams in the league would have a hard time drawing for like a midweek 2:00 game. Even if I was really thinking about it. Like, it's so not baseball, but like, do you start alternating games? Like, don't play every day in the playoffs,
so that they can all be at night.
They can all be at night, and then on top of that, like, you have your 2 best pitchers going like every night,
every third game. Yeah.
And like, you're not getting like a 4-star, like, they're
the starters go 1, 4, and 7. Yeah.
And because I was talking to my dad too. I'm like, just mentioned, I'm like, doesn't it kind of blow for baseball? Like, this shit is gonna land. Like, Game 7 of the ALCS is during Monday Night Football.
Yeah, not a soul.
Like, I don't care if that's Texans Panthers. Like, no one's gonna care. Like that's the thing, right? Like, it's the entire league, like, is just in terms of demand. I mean, really, like I don't know, like, other than like some of those like Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, like, I just don't see it with baseball anymore. Like, I don't see it with fans, like, again, the A's playing the Giants when I was like when we were like in middle school was like the thing.
Right.
No one talks about that. I mean, the A's are like possibly moving now, but like.
But yeah, local interest in the Giants is at an all-time low. Their attendance is at a low at AT&T Park by a mile. You know,
But like if you just look at like what the media talks about, like the shows, the First Take, the Fox Sports, you know, all like NBC,
local
whatever,
radio,
like Pat McAfee, local radio, like they're all they talk about is football, like,
and then sometimes the NBA,
exactly,
and
like,
then a mile of shit. And
that's my thing though. Like I'm crapping on baseball because I think they're further along in this process of like just the NFL and football in general, because I love college football in there, just taking over American sports, like even more than they have. Like I said a couple weeks ago, and like the more I think about it, I think it's freaking genius. They have to finish before football starts.
Yeah.
Because like the other thing too, you know, we play summer baseball, like, oh, it's nice weather, you know, have a picnic, a barbecue. You get to the playoffs, especially the East. Like earlier in the playoffs, like Minnesota has a home game. And like I've seen other Minnesota home games. Now that they're out, it's like freaking 25 degrees and snowing. Like why are we playing baseball? Like it's hard to play, you know?
Right.
Like
imagine if the Twins and Cardinals made the World Series, and in November you got to find a way to play 7 of those games.
Like it's you kind of mentioned it, like rain delay. Like you played like the World Series game or a playoff, and it's like rain delay, like ball buster. I mean, it just because the NBA started today,
right?
Who cares? Like just. I mean, I think I saw maybe like, you know, Stephen A. will talk about it. He's a basketball guy, but like, I mean,
we say it every week.
The only time I hear people talk about the NBA right now is like James Harden has basically just quit.
Yeah. It's never about what's going on the court.
Exactly. Like, oh, Giannis, I think, signed an extension. Like, cool. He's not going to request a trade like in a year. I just. Yeah, I mean,
it's the point we make every week is that every league is falling further and further behind the NFL in terms of just market share. But my point more with there being $9 tickets for the NLCS is this is the equivalent of, say, you know, the Vikings host the Niners in the NFC Championship game and tickets are available for $15. Like that would be it's so inconceivable that you could never even imagine that happening. But in baseball, it is reality. You have a team who has made it to within one game of making the World Series, and their fans at that point still do not care, which means that your product has a massive, massive, possibly unalterable problem.
Yeah, I personally mentioned that because if you want people to go like to the playoff game, like if you want people in Arizona to go to that game, like you have to sell them on like spring training, like why that's important. Like you have to build it up. Like, you know, the same people who are diehard about like week 9, whatever in the NFL, like are locked into the draft. Like these people watch these young men running shorts at the combine. Like what does he clock at the, like it, and it just builds and it just never ends. Like everything the NFL does is a huge deal. And baseball is like, oh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's like, oh, we'll get them tomorrow. Like it's like there's so lack of urgency, and then it's like, oh, it's the playoffs, and fans are like, I only watched like 3 games all year. Got to be honest, I don't even know.
They're like, I'll go to the game, but I only got $10 in my wallet. They're like, come on in.
Yeah, I mean, we factor that too. I mean, you know, obviously, I mean, a lot of people probably losing their jobs, don't have much, like, you know, just it's not great out there for you know, some people right now. And it's just like, if people have multiple sports, like, you know, like we do, like you allocate your money. Like maybe they're going to see Josh Dobbs. Maybe they're going to go watch the Coyotes.
Yeah, maybe they're going to pop up to Vegas to place a couple bets on sports rather than, you know, watching their hometown team play in the NLCS. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was just one of the wildest stories of the week. I would imagine, and I say this from experience, I have bought dozens and dozens and dozens of A's playoff tickets. Under no circumstance would any A's playoff ticket, if it was played at 2 a.m., you know, at the Coliseum, no way would there be get-in tickets for less than $50. Like, It's just not something that's going to happen. 2019 AL wildcard game was a Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. You know, we know what Bay Area traffic was like pre-COVID. They sold out 54,000 seats. My tickets were in the second deck in the outfield. I believe they were face value $65. Like, baseball is not in a good spot. That's the point I was trying to make there. Another good pod. We finally had that pod bowl. I can't believe the Vikings won it. Yeah, it went well for me, but we're still 2 games behind you in the standings. So Vikings season back on. Niners need to get it right this week against Cincinnati. We'll be back to recap it all next week. Hopefully a couple wins for the Vikings over the Packers and the Niners over the Bengals. We will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us for 1 full calendar year. We appreciate everybody listening, rating, and subscribing, and we'll keep bringing these to you as long as you keep listening. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.